Easy Rider, starring the aforementioned Dennis Hopper, Peter Fonda, Jack Nicholson. Well, Easy Rider is, when Columbia threw out their catalog of films to choose for the 60s, you know, the du jour one that of course I'm going to choose is going to be Easy Rider. It's might be the single greatest example of 60s cinema in almost every way, all right, because of both the culture it projects, the aesthetic it projects, and just even the idea that finally a movie and the counterculture hooked up with each other in a way that the people of that culture actually accepted Easy Rider.
Yeah.
Because I think before that, even though biker films had existed, and you know, Peter Fonda in particularly, and Roger Corman's Wild Angels, which started the whole biker film subgenre that this is officially a part of, even though it's not coming from the Hells Angels point of view. There still always was an aspect of an older generation who doesn't quite understand it making these movies for a younger generation that are ultimately too hip to buy Hollywood's version of it. And I think that's a common case in a lot of Hollywood movies where they try to capitalize on a movement, or a youth movement in particular, and try to regurgitate a movie for that movement. It's usually seen as the fraud that it usually is, not always, but usually is. But that was not the case with Easy Rider. One, it wasn't a studio movie. BBS made it. They had an output deal with Columbia, but they were able to truly do their own thing. So because Dennis Hopper was able to kind of do what he wanted, you know, he created a new type of movie, and it caught on with audiences because it felt like, oh, hey, this is a movie for us by people like us. It's talking to us. It's not interpreting for us.
Right.
And it's not talking down to us. I think Alice's Restaurant fits into that category as well. Positively, the two early Greenwich Village De Palma movies, Greetings and Hi Mom, absolutely feel like they were made by the people of the counterculture for said culture. But what makes Easy Rider different from the rest was it's just incredible, phenomenal success. An interesting thing also about Easy Rider, before we get into watching the film, is Easy Rider probably is one of the most specific movies probably ever released by a Hollywood studio that is like specific to its era. You know, it captures the 60s in a way that's tangible. And so almost in a way, if you're trying to describe to somebody the 60s in terms of movies, you could show them Easy Rider and never have to show them anything else.
Yeah.
But there's an interesting thing about that because of that, Easy Rider kind of goes in and out of fashion. There are times in the 50 years since Easy Rider has been made that it looks more dated than it does. Like today, I don't think Easy Rider looks incredibly dated. But in the 80s, it looked very dated when you watched Easy Rider. It seemed like a document of its time, and this was not its time. But then in the 90s, it didn't look so dated.
And especially...
And now it doesn't look so
No.
dated. I think Easy Rider is part of a group of what I call American outlaw movies that were all made by directors that made a special kind of movie their own way without not much help from outside forces, and kind of forced the movie together their way. And then, much to everybody's surprise, that movie did well nationwide, all right, where it became very popular in a way that couldn't be predicted, but not like a Los Angeles success or like a New York success, like like for instance the De Palma movies we mentioned before, Greetings and Hi Mom. That didn't do well all over the place, but it did very well in New York. But there was a group of movies that actually kind of came out like what I'm talking about, and they actually went nationwide. They actually did well eventually nationwide, and that and I think that list would include George Romero's Night of the Living Dead. I think it includes Melvin Van Peebles, this is not in any order, Melvin Van Peebles' Sweet Sweetback's Badass Song. It includes Russ Meyer's Beyond the Valley of the Dolls, Tom Laughlin's Billy Jack, and Dennis Hopper's Easy Rider. And Easy Rider, almost like Rosemary's Baby or something, made about something like $30 million back when, that was an astronomical amount. I mean, they would spend, in the 60s, they would spend $2 million or $2.5 million on a movie, and that would be like a lot of money spent on a movie. And if it made $12 million, that was considered fantastic. We did great with that. And then Easy Rider just was just went through the roof. Henry Fonda said, God, Peter made a movie that made almost more money than all my movies put together. There was no expectations, all right? Least of all from Dennis and Peter. They're outlaw movies that these directors made, that they knew what they wanted to do, and they made their kind of movie. And frankly, they were kind of first for their time in almost every aspect. And then they came out and, like an unsigned band that comes out and becomes, and has like the hit of the year. That's what these movies kind of represented. One of the things that was also kind of fascinating about Easy Rider, especially at its time, was one of the things that made the movie commercial, along with the performances, along with the costumes, along with the music, along with all the accoutrement that the film offers, was its ending. Its nihilistic ending, the idea that the characters would die senselessly for no reason whatsoever, and just be left there, their blood staining the asphalt. And that became one of the commercial aspects of the movie, because it kind of promoted a new view amongst young people in America. Is, well, you can't win.
Yeah.
It was a very nihilistic time in America when it came to thinking about the America we had grown up in, the America we had been told what America is, the apple pie image. And Easy Rider kind of flies in the face of that. In fact, the most famous scene is the campfire scene where they dissect it. For your freedom, yeah. You go, well, isn't it what freedom's all about, man? Well, that's what they say.
Yes.
It's all about. But when they meet a person who's really free,
right,
that they can't have that.
Yes.
And so, and this would get worse as the 70s go on with Watergate. All of our institutions we had been taught were all found to be wormy and full of wormholes, and that even became a big thing in cinema itself, where it was like, to some degree or another, almost the reason to do historical pictures is to show the fraud that historical pictures in Hollywood had been up until now. Mm-hmm. With Easy Rider, it's a worldview. It's a worldview, and in a strange way, if you think about it, it's, I hadn't thought about this before until just now. In a weird way, the ending is actually what makes Easy Rider have a story. I don't even know if you could say Easy Rider has a story until the ending.
Yeah. Because
the ending makes what's happened before a story.
Yeah.
Well, it makes them martyrs. In particular, they have to get killed by that especially ugly redneck. Almost what makes it a story and what makes it martyrs is that those guys kill them. Mm-hmm. If they were just hit by a big rig, that came out of nowhere when they were crossing the highway, well, that's not an ending to their journey. That's just an accident. And if they were killed by cops, well, that's almost too much of a pointed.
Right.
That's okay. Now we got to make bad guys. But in a weird way, it's like those hippies are truly representing the old America. I don't think it was, actually. I mean, I think it probably was for the first few audiences, but then I actually think people knew it. I think at a certain point, it became so successful. I think people at a certain point knew it going in, that was how it was going to be, and because their friends told them about it.